This week on The Record, the fight for control of Missouri's treasury, Republican Vivek Malik is on the record. The race for Missouri governor, Republican Mike Kehoe leads in the polls and with big donors. Can Crystal Quaid pull off an upset? The Democratic nominee is on the record. It's all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. Missouri Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe leads the pack of candidates running for statewide office right now with a combined campaign war chest of nearly $2 million. But could this be the year a Democrat pulls off an upset? She's running for governor, and she joins us now. House Democratic Minority Leader Crystal Quaid, thanks for joining us once more on The Record.
Thank you for having me.
Just a little over 2 weeks to go until Election Day. How are things looking? What are your odds? I mean, you came into this knowing Democrats would be an underdog in a red state. Can you pull it off?
We absolutely can. And you're right that, we are the underdogs in this race, not just by numbers, but financially as well. But folks are really frustrated right now. I've been spending the last year and a half on the campaign trail, but been spending a lot of time in rural parts of our state, traveling in places that Democrats maybe haven't shown up in a while. And I am hearing from folks time and time again how frustrated they are with the status quo in Jefferson City. And of course, with various amendments on the line this year, looking towards change here in the state of Missouri. And so I'm excited.
Yeah, part of your campaign is about messaging and drawing voters' attention to some of those other big questions, the big one being abortion, Amendment 3. I want to see how you address some of the criticism and the campaign tactics of Republicans who are trying to defeat it. One of their largest messaging strategies here is to try and tie it to other transgender issues. We've seen this, the Supreme Court said it is a single issue around reproductive rights.
Right.
Do reproductive rights also include transgender health care procedures?
No, look, this tactic from folks on the other side of this issue is quite honestly showing the desperation of where they are right now. Missourians overwhelmingly want politicians out of their personal lives, out of their doctor's offices. And we know we had over 800 doctors sign on to Amendment 3 saying that they absolutely need this to provide health care to the people in the state of Missouri. And so many women are coming forward sharing their stories of miscarrying, needing abortion care, of traumatic experiences that fall under the rape and incest category. And what we have right now in the state of Missouri is the most drastic ban in the entire country. And so the other side knows that they're losing, and so they're flat out lying. And it's been really frustrating, I know, for folks to see this misinformation out there, but I think that it is a good showing that the coalition and the folks who are working to pass Amendment 3 are doing it right.
The amendment itself says that the legislature can step in and regulate things outside of roughly that first 2 trimesters or the first 6 months of pregnancy. And as I understand it, interviewing a number of doctors who perform both OBGYN work or other transgender procedures, those two wouldn't overlap. You wouldn't be treating someone with puberty blockers or hormone therapy while they're in those first 2 trimesters. So in your view, does that settle the question, or are there other legal loopholes? Because this is what the whole argument rests upon. For Republican critics of Amendment 3. They say, well, it could lead to other things. It's a slippery slope argument. How firm is that guarantee in the amendment that the legislature can regulate things outside of the Roe standard? It's
extremely firm. And I say that because we know that once Amendment 3 passes, that we have to also elect folks who will respect the will of voters and not go in and try to undermine various pieces of it. Because of the way that it's written, you're exactly right that the legislature can go in and make changes. They can do things just like we've seen in Missouri for years now, regulating hallway sizes, ultrasounds, all sorts of things that we know that they're going to do, and some laws that are still currently on the books that are going to have to be litigated. And so you're exactly right that what they're, this direction that they're going, I think, is a settled matter, and that what these folks are saying is not true.
I know I'm asking you a lot about these amendments and relying on your experience in the legislature for them. I'm going to do that again in a minute. We'll get around to your campaign, I promise.
Okay.
But on Amendment 2,
yes.
There's a question, should Missouri voters legalize sports betting? But one of the big incentives to do it is that it would fund education. Well, now everyone's confused because some people are saying, well, that's great, this money's going to go towards schools, and other people are saying, well, no, the legislature could always come and rely on that money and then cut the existing funding, so it would be a wash.
Yeah.
How do you read that? Is it a slam dunk if Missouri legalizes sports betting that every penny of that revenue is going to go towards schools?
It is not a slam dunk. And that's, again, it is so important that voters, if they want an issue to pass or feel one way about something, public education funding, abortion access, you need to be electing legislators and a governor who agree with you and will actually listen to that.
You're speaking to that disconnect in Missouri.
I really am. And this Amendment 2 is just another example of this. I encourage folks, and I believe that some of our education groups are saying the same thing, that when you're looking at Amendment 2, separate those issues. Do you want sports betting legal in the state of Missouri? Yes, vote yes. No, vote no. This does not have anything to do with education. It can potentially create more revenue. There's different theories on there of how much, what that would do. But unless we send pro-public education lawmakers and a governor to Jefferson City, it doesn't guarantee that that money's going to go there.
Recently, your opponent, the governor, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, running for governor, called Joe Biden illegitimate. What did you take him to mean by that?
I think that is a showing that the Kehoe campaign might be a little worried about their base actually supporting him, and he's trying to run extremely far to the right. We saw the Republican primary with the flamethrowers and all the ridiculous commercials was very contested and very divided on their side. And, Mike Kehoe has flip-flopped on this issue. When the election first happened, he, very much said, let's move on. The Biden won, we're moving forward. And then very recently, to your point, has changed his rhetoric around that. And it's unfortunate, that we have an elected leader in the state of Missouri and somebody running for the highest office who won't respect what has been litigated, as you said.
He's not alone. In fact, if you look at the polling, right after the election, I think it was only like 30%, if memory serves, of Republican voters who thought there was fraud in the election. That number has doubled in the 4 years since. Who's responsible for that?
I mean, the elected leaders who are continuing to share this narrative. It's been really interesting to me.
You don't put any of that blame on the voters themselves, the people who are arriving at these conclusions?
Of course, everybody has responsibility for doing research and making sure that the things they're consuming are factual and that they're what they're believing has merit there. But it's interesting to me that our very own Secretary of State here in Missouri, Jay Ashcroft, has said Missouri's election was right and ours was we can trust that, and everybody who won in the state of Missouri was accurate. But then we'll call out other states and have that and continue with that same rhetoric. And it's just, again, funny to me that we have elected leaders who say my race was real, but everyone else's was wrong, and it's just silly.
I've asked you a lot about other things on the ballot, other questions, other candidates, those running against you, but I haven't asked you much yet. And in the limited time we have left here, I want to know what it is that you can deliver to voters. And you focused a lot on early childhood education and expanding some education programs there. Is there something tangible you can point to and say, if I'm governor, this is how your family will be different?
Absolutely. One of the things that is the most frustrating to me in my time in Jefferson City, but also as a citizen in the state of Missouri, is how the state government is simply not working. Folks call into Medicaid and they are on wait times of 4 hours plus if they even get through. The federal government is actually suing the state of Missouri because we are failing at providing these basic promises to Missourians. Recently in the news, we've seen the state of Missouri not paying its child care bills. And so we've had child care providers have to shut their doors because the state of Missouri is not paying their bills. I don't know about you and I, but when we don't pay our bills, there is a consequence there. And for the state of Missouri, that is simply not happening. There's IT failures. The list goes on and on of where the status quo is simply not working for Missourians' day-to-day lives. And as governor, I will ensure that we are prioritizing our agencies doing the basic jobs that we're promising.
Representative Crystal Quade, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're back in a moment. To the campaign trail, Senate hopefuls swung through St. Louis this week, sprinting toward November 5, looking to boost their hometown credentials with some celebrity status. After Senator Josh Hawley stumped alongside Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, Lucas Kuntz rallied with entertainment host Andy Cohen. Kuntz put his retail politics to the test at Kathy's Kitchen in North County. Meanwhile, Hawley's bus driver drew some flack from the patients inside a medical building outside the parking lot. They were displeased with the parking job there. Richmond Heights police said someone called to complain, but the bus wasn't really breaking any laws. The city of St. Louis is also ironing out the kinks of a new program to repair or stabilize vacant buildings. Software developer Tony Patali bought an old automotive garage. You can see it here. Then he got hit with an unexpected bill. It would have cost him more than the entire purchase price of that building after the fact. The city blamed the seller for failing to disclose any ongoing work orders and a pending tax lien on the property.
And we waited a little bit to put a lien on the building. That was supposed to be an act of good faith from the city saying, hey, we're implementing this new program. We want to give you the opportunity to turn this building around. The sellers took advantage of that, pulled a trick, and before the lien was issued, they sold that building to the buyer and didn't let them know that it was that it had been through this program.
The city is reducing Patali's bill from 109 grand down to 25,000. He's refusing to pay it. We'll be back with more after this. Missouri Governor Mike Parson appointed Vivek Malik to fulfill and take over the role of state treasurer about halfway through a 4-year term, and the incumbent Republican is now running for his first 4-year term in that office, and he joins us now on the record. Mr. Malik, thank you for joining us.
Mark, thank you very much for having me.
I see in your campaign materials a part of your biography, your story, both about your arrival to America and your work in that immigration space. How important is that part of your biography to what you would bring to this office?
I think it is very important. This basically depicts what an American dream is, and I have lived it myself. I came to the United States in 2001 as an international student on a student visa, and then I arrived in Cape Girardeau and instantly fell in love with the state and knew exactly that I want to raise my family here and want to live in Missouri. Not only I earned 2 master's degree, I earned my MBA from Southeast, and thereafter went on to earn my master's in law degree from University of Illinois. And thereafter I practiced, worked hard building a law firm, and I practiced law for 15 years, helping other legal immigrants achieve their American dream. So for me, this is a very important piece in my not only biography, but my life story.
You say legal immigrants.
Yes.
And I wonder why you highlight that. Obviously, you're familiar with the rhetoric. Your campaign itself in the primary referenced the border wall with Mexico and the southern border. What did you do as an immigration lawyer if someone came to you and said, hey, I've lived here, I don't have the proper documentation? Did you turn them away?
No, if the law allows you certain things when you are in this country, but my practice dealt mostly with business immigration, where we help companies bring in skilled labor in H-1B, L-1s, intra-company employees, professors, doctors, students, and help also with obtaining citizenship for legal immigrants who are here on green card.
I want to move on to other parts of the office, but I'm really curious to get your take on this, because around that time when you moved here, the Reagan Republican, the George Bush Republican, they believed that immigration to this country was a positive thing. It showed America's strength, that we were the home of the largest number of visitors of any country in the world, people that wanted to come here. Why do you think the Republican Party rhetoric has shifted on that topic?
I don't think it has shifted. I think it is how it is portrayed by the other side today. I think immigration is still very important. It is still very good, and it is good for America. And I say, as President Reagan proudly used to say, America is a shining city on the hill. That is because of immigration, because we used to import the talent and the skill set that would put America at the cutting edge of technology. When you talk about all these different innovators, whether it's Elon Musk or Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai, I mean, they are all immigrants who have made a huge impact to the American economy, to the technology where we are the leaders. So I think immigration is key, but it has to be legal immigration, and it has to be merit-based immigration. And other countries have moved in that direction, and it is time for America to move in that direction.
And you highlighted this storyline, this rhetoric in your campaign. Can you connect the dots between America's immigration policy to the work of the Missouri State Treasurer's Office? Is there some connection?
Absolutely, and that I was criticized that I was on a border wall. What is the treasurer doing on a border wall? And I found it very important based on 2 reasons. First, it is personal to me because I feel letting people in without knowing who they are, without knowing what the skill set they're bringing in, what qualities they're bringing in, it is sometimes can be dangerous. And we have seen those things happening. And I'm not saying that everybody's bad, but I think there's a process, there's a rule of law, and we need to follow that rule of law. If we need to improve those things, we need to improve those things through our immigration system, change the laws, and that is overdue, and we need to do that. But the second thing is, Treasurer's Office, I am in charge of all the money that goes out to for all these programs, whether it is education or healthcare. And right now, with more than 85,000 illegal, undocumented immigrants present in Missouri, part of that money goes for that as well. So
What
I would
share?
like.
How much?
It is hard to quantify
Because
you do not know what services they are taking, whether it is through the education system, through sending their kids to school, or it is through the healthcare system. And so, but the state has to foot that bill. I would want that money to be going for the betterment, for the utilization of American citizens and Missourians.
Let's talk about how you would approach the investment decisions, because you and your Democratic opponent, Mark Osmak, who appeared on this program 2 weeks ago, have talked about whether or not to invest with a conscience. He has drawn the line at saying he wouldn't want to invest in any companies or holdings owned by an adversary nation. He listed those as Iran and Russia. You've taken it a step farther and said you would not invest in companies held in China because you think there might be a dramatic loss there, if I understand your position correctly at some point. When voters head to the ballot box this November, do you think that they expect the state treasurer to set America's foreign policy?
No, but I am there to make sure that our taxpayers' dollars are wisely invested and they are safe and secure investments. Right now, we do not need to invest on our adversaries, and China at this current time is an adversary nation by the actions that it has taken. And
By the definition of the State Department, only Chinese military companies. There's a broad economy. It's the second biggest economy in the world.
I
Right?
understand, but most of the companies that are controlled by the Communist Party of China, the CCP, I don't consider those investments to be safe. And that has come even from the Biden administration. The way they have skirted the transparency of financial documentation, they have manipulated their currency, stealing intellectual property from the American companies. All these amounts to that. And recently, the aggression that their military has shown towards Taiwan, which shows that if ever, which intelligence also points very clearly that there could be an aggression, there could be a takeover of Taiwan by China, and if they attack Taiwan, all our investments will be tanked and become zero if they nationalize those. So I personally feel that is not correct, and that's why I led the effort and fought it to make sure that our retirees' money is divested from China.
You also oversee a very important program as it pertains to private education in Missouri. Public dollars effectively flow through your office to go to pay tuition funds for students to attend these private schools. And it's a roundabout tax break, but because those are public dollars created by the public legislature, does the public have an interest in seeing how those private schools spend the money? Should these private schools receiving these dollars open their books?
Yes, and what this program is really is it's a tax credit program, as you correctly mentioned. The amount is so small compared to what our education budget for the state is, which is right now about $10 to $11 billion. And the program that we are currently managing is about $27 million. So it's peanuts in front of that.
You see that growing?
There is a limit to that, how much it can grow.
Currently.
And that cap is at $75 million, which will grow every year based on the CPI, how the inflation grows, and that how it will increase to a $75 million cap. So the maximum amount that you can invest in that program is only $75 million. But the basic thing is, I am a very strong, staunch proponent of the issue that every Missouri child should have a world-class education irrespective of where they live, and they should have the capacity to achieve their God-given potential and succeed. And I think some of our school districts are failing in doing that, especially in our inner cities. And this is an option where these kids, their parents can get that option to go send their kids to a school of their choice.
Pleasure to have you on and hearing part of your vision for the state of Missouri's finances and its future. Vivek Malik, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
A lot more of that conversation up online right now. You can find that and more of our interviews on KSDK.com. It also streams on our 5 Plus app. You can search KSDK on Roku, Apple, or Amazon TV. We're back in a moment. This is the part of our program where we usually check the record. This week, we're asking you to check the record yourself. It's up on our voter guide. You can see all the candidates, ballot questions, and big issues on your ballot right now on KSDK.com. And if you like these interviews, there are a whole lot more of them. Just scroll through the candidates who have come on the record. You can watch how they answered our questions. We've invited them all. You'll see the ones who showed up. You can also access it by texting GUIDE to 314-425-5355. Just so you know, our team has regularly reached out to every campaign in these key races, especially statewide candidates, offering them an opportunity for an interview to share their message. We're going to continue to bring you those conversations right up through the election. So tune in each week. Next week, Senator Denny Hoskins, the Republican nominee for Secretary of State, joins us. Perhaps other guests will be there too. Until then, we're off the record.